Good morning, crafty friends. It's Diane, the Creative Inkster, and we are at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm coming to you from Guelph, Ontario, Canada, and I'm really excited to be here with you today to share my project using a stamp set that is not Christmassy, but where we can do Christmas in July. So please chime in and let me know you're here, where you're hailing from, and we'll chit-chat along the way. So I want to have a shout out to my sisters here who have been doing different presentations yesterday, and Angie before me this morning, and Maureen to come after, while we're just getting ourselves established here and you're logging on and getting the notifications that I am live. So I'm just going to I'm just going to jump in. I'm going with it's working. All right, so this is the Global Inspiration Stamp Team, or GIST, G-I-S-T for short. I can't see your comments on my system here, but I will check back afterwards. I'm going with the Grassy Grove, which is not a new stamp set, although there's a new The Grove one in the annual catalog, which pairs really nicely with this. But this is the original one that's been around for a couple of years now. And that's the main focus. I'm using, or I did use in this one, but probably not today's card, one of the deer cutouts, and this set of double trees here. And it is not, as I mentioned, very much a holiday type stamp set, but it has 4 beautiful greetings to go with and lots of other scenery pieces you can work with. I'm going to show you some cards afterwards that I made. So I made this card in a couple of colors, but also some other cards I've made this week with this stamp set. I'm also using a new one called Greetings of the Season. So this is very much a holiday one. I typically get one of these every catalog, fall catalog that comes out, or fall mini that comes out, and this is the one I've chosen to use for my Christmas card classes. All right, so what I'm going to share with you is how to use the Stampin' Up! Masking paper, something that I bought a long time ago but have not actually used enough of, and some techniques with ink and blending. So here's our card. Flips open like this. So I'll go through the measurements as we go, and we just do a whole bunch of stamping. So I'm only using 2 ink pads, Balmy Blue and Night of Navy. So let's get started. All right. So I have a piece of the masking paper here, and I was trying some different sized ones with another punch that didn't punch through very clearly, so it kind of tore it up here. But I'm using the 1 3/4 this morning for a mask. So you can cut, you can punch. Oh, I think my punch needs a little bit sharpening, and to do that I'll just grab some aluminum foil later today and run it through a number of times, and that will help sharpen it up a little bit. So I'm going to hope to get a better circle out of this again. There we go, that's a little bit crisper. So it comes in sheets which measure 5 inches by 7 inches. There's a perforation down the center, and you get 12 sheets in this package. You can use them with punches, with dies, with other things for different masking techniques. And I'm going to get my card base out here. It's in imperial measurements. It's 11 inches long by 4 1/4 inches wide, scored in the middle at 5 1/2 for a standard card base. This one I did in thick basic white. So let's just give that a nice little crisp fold and set it aside. And then I only have 2 other pieces that I need, because this is all about using techniques. And then I'm also using this piece of scrap. You could use copy paper, you could use cardstock. This is just a segment from the grid paper where I had piece left over, so I'm going to use that. Your white piece, or if you did this in vanilla, your light colored vanilla piece would be 4 by 5 1/4 in imperial measurements, and the backing piece, or the mat, is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and that's just to mat our stamped layer onto our card base. So those 2 are going to go together like that. I'm just going to tuck that aside. No ribbon on this one, so nothing to worry about layers to be able to wrap your ribbon around before you add it together. So what I've tried to create the illusion of here with the mask is a moon in the background. You know how in the winter days and you got snow on the ground and you look up through the sky and it can be the middle of the day, but you can still see a bit of the moon. It doesn't even have to be really late in the day. So that is the image idea that I'm going with. So I didn't cut this on the perforation, so I'm just going to use my nail to get underneath the piece here. That should go easier. Would help if I had nails. All right, so I just fold it over like I do the yogurt container when you're trying to get the yogurt piece off. Kind of fold it over and get underneath it. There we go. All right, so it's just sticky paper, but it's temporary adhesive. So sticky enough, but not so much that it's really going to mess up your piece that you want to pull it off. So I'm kind of going over with the up in the left segment here, the left corner a little bit. You can see that I've got it placed down on there. I'm not worried about these little rough edges that are because my punch wasn't super sharp. I'm okay with that. So how we create these sort of snowbank images, which not quite as easy to see in the video, that helps a little bit, so that I can get my trees on the snowbanks, is you just take a piece of paper, and like I mentioned, it can be cardstock, copy paper, whatever you want, and you just tear. You just tear. You can make it deep angles or not deep angles, whatever you want to do. And you tear it off the piece off here. Pretty not descript in any fashion and no specific measurements to it. And then you can use your blending tools, whether that's a blending brush or a sponge dauber or the old sponges, to kind of add the color on. I'm going to show you how I did that. So I'm going to grab Balmy Blue first, and we're just going to start without the masking paper piece here. And so this is one that I use for all things blue, pretty much all of my blue colors. I don't have a blending brush for every color. I'm just wiping some extra off. So I've seen a couple of ways people do this. I tend to, because I have one that I use for all different shades of blue, I'll go wipe it off on the side to take some of that excess dark off that I had, and then I just kind of go over the ink pad like this. And I'm just going to take some scratch in here and show you how when you go to put it down, you can sometimes get a blotchy piece if you just go in like that. So I go off the page and I move in a circular motion. I've seen people hold it between 3 fingers as well. And I feel that gives you a little more control than if you're just holding by the handle. I don't know, personally, I just can't quite get this going, although it's worth a try, right? I'm not overly concerned that this paper is exactly Balmy Blue, so if there's a little bit of the other shades of blue in with it, that's perfectly fine for me. Yes, you can wash these. It just means you're going to be using a lot more ink to ink it up the next time you want to use it. So it's different feelings on that. You do what works for you. Another thing I've seen people do is they'll grab a block, a clear block, a somewhat clean clear block, and stick it into their ink pad. And pick up the ink there onto the ink pad and then use that to grab the ink for here. And I've heard from some that makes less of the blotchy look when you first lay it down. That hasn't been my experience, but I want to share that with you because I have seen people do it successfully. It may just be me and the way that I do it, but it may work for you. So I'm not going to do that technique, but I want to share it with you. So I've got a nice layer of some Balmy Blue on here, and I'm going to work in the top third of my piece, and I'm going to use my scratch paper because I have a lovely brand new piece of grid paper here. I don't want to get it all mucked up. So I'm starting off the page, and I'm moving in, kind of going around. And you know what, if it gets blotchy or that here and there, you can do a lot of layering out, leveling out by using your blending brush back and forth and more and more. So I'm going to lay a little bit more color on here than normal, or excuse me, than I did on the last one. But I'm working in the top segment here of it. But I'm going to make it, because I want it to be a little more pronounced, and you can see it all a little bit better. Apologies for the shaking of the table. My camera is here, and it's all on the same space. So, all right, so I've got a decent layer down there. Maybe I need to smooth this out a little bit. And I kind of like when I come in from the outside, how I get that bit of a darker edge on the edge of my paper. It adds just that little bit more. All right, and then I found afterwards I could go back through, and where I've got maybe some extra blotchy pieces, I can smooth them out a little bit. All right, I better go down here just a smidge on this side of the moon. Remember, we're going to remove that mask on the moon eventually, and that'll leave it white behind. And it'll be more pronounced once you have it in contrast to this coloring. All right, there's that. Now I'm going to pull in that torn piece, and I'm going to go down this way. I'm going to actually show you with my bone folder the sort of the angles I'm going to go. I'm going to hold the paper so it goes this way, and then it goes this way, and then it goes this way again over here. And that's going to give me the idea or the illusion of the hills. And having this little uneven piece. I didn't like that extra little hill I had there. So I'm going to clear that up a little bit, and just a little bit, because I want to be able to get my trees in there. Okay, we're going in. So starting up here about 1 3/4 inches down, maybe. I'm going to go from there, not quite, maybe up about an inch or so, 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to start here, and I'm going to press this out over my cardstock. So I don't want to fill the whole thing. I do want some white space. But I'm going to go back and forth. And when I lift this up, you see how you can see that ripply line? Well, that's what we're going for. We're still going to be able to fill in some of this if we want. Plus, we're going to be stamping. So let's remember that. So looking at it this way, I think I'm going to have a little bit, I have quite an angle there. I think I'm going to have quite a little bit less of an angle on this side. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to ink it up. I'm going to tap off a little bit of the excess, and I'm going to push it forward and then draw it down. And it doesn't matter if it's super dark in some spots and lighter in others. That doesn't have to be uniform. All right, so then it looks a bit like clouds or snowbanks. So then I'm going to try to go again down here, and each card, each time you do this, it's going to be different. It's definitely going to be different because you're going to go at it from a different angle. You're going to have different pressure. Each one is totally unique, which is kind of cool. All right, so I pushed out over my jagged edge and then down the edge. There we go. And maybe we can just add a little bit more here. I'm not adding. I don't think I'm adding an animal this time. If I didn't die cut it first, I'm just gonna go with the trees for the look. There we go. All right. So another way I've seen people do this exact same technique is instead of using the paper on this angle, it's turning it upside down and working down from that angle. You do what works for you, what makes sense for you. That's the way I kind of look at these things. So I want to leave my mask, or I want to take my mask off shortly because I'm going to be putting the trees on. So here are the trees from Grassy Grove, the two of them together. I'm going to try to get them a little more straight on this block. There we go. And I'm using Night of Navy, so for a complementary color. I've done this card in shades of smoky slate and basic gray, as well as some greens. I'm going to show you how they look a little bit different. So I'm going to stamp these over here, but first let's reveal the moon. So once you do this, once you pull it off, you're like done. You're done hiding the moon. And this is the color of your moon. So I'm just going to get my nail underneath it there. Okay. There we go. And then gently peel it off. It will not leave residue behind. It's all smooth, but look at that. And you can reuse that piece if you want to. So there's the moon. And we're going to add some trees around it. So I found with this stamp, I just want to practice a little bit to make sure that I've got ink everywhere. Because it's kind of hard to go back with a cling mount stamp and position another set of trees beside it. So following my sample here, I'm going to put some that go up through the moon. And then I want to get another piece in there. So there's two that go there. And then I want to get another piece that kind of goes up beyond them. There we go. And they look like they're a little further away. And then I'm going to put something sort of in the middle here. You got to get your bigger stuff first, your bigger pieces first, stamped. And then I want to get something down here, just on the edge. All right, so now we want to do a little bit more masking. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You can take your masking paper and you can mask your actual stamp, clean it and mask it. Or I'm going to actually use the cutout that I had. So I'm going to kind of line up where my pieces landed. So I'm going to clean this off because I don't want the bottom trees like to fill up on the paper here. So I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfectly clean, but that's a good start. Okay. So now I'm going to line up, I'm going to try to get some trees on this snowbank here. Just line this up, find that arc that I had, there it is. Oop. There we go. So I can see it because I have sponged it. All right, and then I'm going to take ink on the tops of the trees, and that's going to give this tree stamp some more life because it's going to make them look like trees behind a snowbank or shorter trees. It's sort of how you look at it. So holding that down with my hand, I'm just gonna put that on there, and when I lift this, there they are, they're in the snowbank. Pretty cool, huh? So I'm going to try to do the same thing down here. And this might cover a little bit those stems of these trees here, and that's okay. But this gives the also some depth perception. And if it doesn't line up perfectly or as well as you would like it to, don't worry, you can go back and add a little bit of sponging afterwards, which I may have to do. So let's see, let's get a couple. I'm not putting the deer on this, so I can put a couple more trees here, make them look a little shorter. And then this one here, there we go. And they're sitting on that snowbank. And then maybe one here. Where's that arc? There we go. I'm just lining my torn paper up with where I had sponged it earlier. And I'll make these off center a bit so that they're not a perfect line up to these ones above it. Okay, I'm done stamping now, I think. Close my ink pad because that happens to me that I get ink everywhere if I'm not careful. Move my scratch paper out of the way. There we go. So this is a point where you might want to go through and say, oh, you know, I've got too much white, or this is blotchy, or you want to kind of make some fixes, things you might want to do. Let me pull up to the camera so you can see that a little bit better. So I put a lot more of the balmy blue up here than I did on the last card. Now I'm going to work on my greetings. So from Greetings of the Season, I chose the Merry Christmas, which is 2 separate stamps. So let's pull the scratch paper in because I added them to my block, but I want to see that they're lined up nicely. And these are also going to be in Night of Navy. So very simple card in that you don't need a whole lot of supplies. So I'm going to just add this on my grid paper. I wanted to see that when I put them on the block, the Merry and the Christmas are nicely spaced apart, and I think I've achieved that, so I'm happy with that. And, you know, after all this lovely work on here, I want to try to get this straight. So I love that this is a photopolymer stamp. It makes doing that so much easier. Ink it up, line it up, and I'm kind of shooting for this black, darker black line that's kind of in my field of vision here. I want it to partially touch the moon. There we go. Merry Christmas. So yeah, by lining it up here, I had a visual on this line to help line it up. Okay. So now we're ready to just put it together. Simple, simple. I'm going to use my trusty liquid glue. And I'm not putting any popping up, no dimensionals, no ribbons. This is a beautiful, simple Christmas card, which I think is quite stunning in the technique that it has. Kind of looks like that one Christmas stamp we do have with all the trees. I don't have that one, but it's a lovely background stamp, and I think I saw somebody using it yesterday. I popped in on a video. Okay, there we go. And then I chose Rhinestone Basic Jewels for my embellishment on here. I think they always look really elegant with, oops, with blues and whites. I'm just going to put a few of these, sprinkle them around. I may actually cover up where I've got a little blotchy piece there. That kind of was handy that I had a space I could do that. And then grab another one and stick it where I kind of have space in the snowbanks. People ask, where do you put your embellishments? And I tend to draw some kind of a triangle with them just to pull your eye down on there. And that's my card. So I hope you give this a try using your blending brushes. If you don't have the masking paper, you can easily pick that up from your demonstrator, or if you're a hobbyist, go ahead and add that to your next order. Without that, you can punch a piece out of a sticky note and kind of use that as well. I like how well it positions though, and kind of works for not shifting. So there's one or two in blues, and here are some other ones that I made. So here's one I did in smoky slate and basic gray. And on this one, I don't know if you can see the little twinkling a little bit, but I used my Wink of Stella, and just by pulling the lid off, I flicked it. So you hold your Wink of Stella brush inside the lid, and you just flick. Now, careful you don't have your laptop sit in front of you, or you'll get splatters there, but usually you can just aim it to land on your card. So there's that one. And then I did one in greens, which I'm kind of happy with. It's different, you know, this is Old Olive and soft sea foam. And again, added some sparkle to that one. Here's another sample I did with the Night of Navy Balmy Blue combination when I was first trying to figure out how to line these up. So yeah, I got 5 Christmas cards ready to go out. Then with the same stamp set, I made a few other cards. This is the naturally gilded paper, and I used my blending brush again, added some pink pirouette at the bottom, actually about a little more than halfway up, pink pirouette right onto this paper, because it's a resist type paper with the silver in there. And then I went over the middle strip with some gray, and that kind of dirtied down the pink in the middle there and kind of gave it that more misty look. And then I have blue at the top. And then I put some on the snow as well, used some silver paper to cut out that, you know, a little bit of silver elements with embossing. Here is one using the idea of the snowbanks, but more of clouds in the sky. So there's your moon, and then kind of graduated colors going up. This is really just two colors because blue and yellow together with this is Azure Afternoon and Lemon Lolly. When you put those together in the middle, you're going to get some greens. And this black on black, like this is not even cardstock down here, guys. This is a blending brush with Tuxedo Black Memento ink, and I just kept going over it till it was as dark as I could get it. Really sweet. I really like that one. And then here's a Happy Holidays one. Again, idea of masking. I cut a piece of cardstock that was the same as the front of my card base. I used some temporary adhesive to hold it down. I could have used a piece of masking paper, but I didn't want to use it all up. And before I put it down, I cut a deckled circle out of it. And so then that gave me the mask for the circle. And then I went over with Calypso Coral, Lemon Lolly, and I think that's Smoky Slate. And added my Wink of Stella for some sparkle. And yeah, I'm happy, really happy with how that one turned out. And then this is one we did in a team swap, shoebox swap. And so this is the die that comes with the Grassy Grove. It's called the Grove dies, it's called. And what we did was we did it in white, I think. And then we took one of the trees from the stamp set on a block with some green, couple of shades of different green ink, these trees, and we stamped over it in a number of different colors, and it just gave all this greenery look. And it was yeah, it was really a cool idea. Somebody had shared it with us that had seen it on a video, and it was fine. It went over the trees as well, because you know when you're in the forest, sometimes the trees have some moss on them, and so it's good that they have a little bit of the green in there too. But then we colored those as well. So really kind of pleased with how that guy turned out. So that's it for me. Please remember, it's bonus days, which means in Canada, for every $60 you spend in July, you get a coupon for $6 to use in August. And what I do with that is I'll check out my stash of things that I kind of need, like cardstock, envelopes, cello bags, like those cello clear envelopes, and my adhesives. So the masking paper, for example, and adhesive sheets, and kind of check my stock of those basic things that I use. Then I'll buy that in July, get a whole bunch of coupons, and then I can go on Splurge and get, you know, half my bundle or something for free. And that's kind of a nice way to do it. So check in with your demonstrator who invited you to the event. Place an order with them. We do have a little gift that we're going to be sending out showing the different projects that we did and some instructions for you. And so not so much instructions, but measurements. And yeah, thank you for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.